Today, we're remembering everyone we lost this December. Some of these names you'll recognize immediately. Others might surprise you when you realize just how much of your entertainment they touched. Let's start with Jim Ward, who passed away on December 10th at 66 years old. If you're sitting there thinking, I don't know that name, trust me, you know his voice. Ward was one of those voice actors who was absolutely everywhere in the animation and gaming world from the 1980s through the 2010s. He voiced multiple characters across the Transformers franchise. And we're not talking about just one show or one movie. Ward worked on various Transformers projects over decades, bringing different robots to life with that versatility that separates good voice actors from great ones. He could play the hero, the villain, the comic relief, whatever the script needed. Ward also brought characters to life in Ben 10, which if you had kids or younger siblings in the 2000s, you know was massive. He worked on RoboCop Alpha Commando and The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. These weren't small projects. These were shows that defined Saturday morning cartoons for a generation. But here's where Ward's reach gets really impressive. He was a major voice in video games. Final Fantasy, one of the most beloved RPG franchises ever made. World of Warcraft, which millions of people have spent thousands of hours playing. Metal Gear, a series known for its complex storytelling and memorable characters. Ward was there, creating voices that players heard during some of their most memorable gaming moments. What made Ward special wasn't just that he worked a lot. Plenty of voice actors work constantly. It was that he disappeared into every role. You didn't hear Jim Ward doing a voice, you heard the character. That's a skill that takes years to develop and even longer to master. Ward had been fighting Alzheimer's disease for 8 years. That's a long battle. And anyone who's watched a loved one go through Alzheimer's knows how cruel that disease is. He died in a Los Angeles memory care facility, which means he spent his final years being cared for as this disease slowly took away the mind that created all those memorable performances. The good news, if there is any in a story like this, is that Ward's work lives on. Kids are still discovering Ben 10. Gamers are still playing through Final Fantasy and Metal Gear. Those voices, those performances, they're not going anywhere. That's the gift voice actors give us. They become part of the things we love forever. On that same day, December 10th, we lost Jeff Garcia. And this one hurts because Garcia was only 50 years old. He died from complications of a collapsed lung, which is one of those medical emergencies that can go from manageable to fatal faster than you'd think. Garcia's breakout role came in 2001 when he voiced Sheen Estevez in Jimmy Neutron. Genius. If you watched that movie or the Nickelodeon series that followed, you know exactly who Sheen is. The hyperactive best friend who was obsessed with Ultra Lord, who said whatever popped into his head, who brought this manic energy to every scene. That was Garcia. He didn't just do the movie and walk away. Garcia voiced Sheen through the entire run of The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius on Nickelodeon, and then continued when Sheen got his own spin-off show, Planet Sheen. Think about that commitment. That character was part of his life for years, through multiple projects, and he brought the same energy every single time. But Garcia wasn't just a voice actor. He did live-action work too. He appeared in the sitcom Mr. Box Office, had guest spots on shows like Caroline in the City. He was one of those performers trying to build a career across multiple mediums, which is what you have to do in entertainment. You take the work that comes, you do it well, and you hope it leads to the next thing. 50 years old. When you hear someone died at 50, it just feels wrong. That's not old. That's not even retirement age. Garcia should have had decades of work ahead of him. More voice roles, more live action parts, maybe teaching the next generation of voice actors. Instead, a collapsed lung and its complications took him way too soon. The kids who grew up watching Jimmy Neutron are adults now, some of them with kids of their own. They're going to show their children those episodes, and Sheen is going to make those kids laugh just like he made their parents laugh. Garcia's energy, his timing, his commitment to that character lives on in every rerun. Beatrice Picard passed away on December 9th at 96 years old, and I'll be honest, if you don't live in Canada or speak French, you might not know her name. But in Quebec, Picard was royalty. And when you hear what she accomplished, you'll understand why. Picard had a career that spanned decades, and I mean decades. She worked across stage, film and television throughout French-speaking Canada. She starred in Quebec classics like Lois Lear and Jamais Deux. She was in productions that defined Quebec entertainment for generations. Theater people in Montreal and Quebec City knew her work. She was one of those actresses who reached a level where her presence in a production meant something. But here's what's truly remarkable about Picard's career. For 33 seasons, she was the Quebec French voice of Marge Simpson. Let that sink in for a second. 33 seasons. The Simpsons has been on the air since 1989. And while Americans heard Julie Kavner as Marge, millions of French-Canadian viewers heard Beatrice Picard. Think about what that means. Every Sunday night, every rerun, every classic episode, Picard was there. Homer, delivered in French with Picard's voice. Every bit of Marge's exasperation with her family, her moments of wisdom, her attempts to keep the Simpson household from falling apart. That was Picard bringing the character to life for a completely different audience. Voice acting for animation, especially for a show that runs that long, requires incredible consistency. You're recording lines out of order, sometimes years apart, and you have to make sure Marge sounds like Marge every single time. Picard did that for 3 decades. She became Marge for an entire generation of viewers who never heard the English version. And while she was doing that, she continued her work in Quebec theater and television. In 2005, she had a memorable performance in Sardizie, a film that became a huge hit in Canada and got international recognition. So she wasn't just coasting on The Simpsons. She was still taking on challenging roles, still showing why she was considered one of Quebec's finest actresses. Picard died of natural causes at 96. When someone lives that long and works that consistently, you feel less sad and more grateful. She had a full life, a remarkable career, and she brought joy to millions of people in 2 languages across multiple mediums. That's a legacy worth celebrating. Tom Hicks died on December 6th at 79 years old. And if you follow professional sports, especially in Texas, or if you're a Liverpool FC supporter, you definitely know the name. Hicks was a businessman who became one of the most prominent and controversial sports owners of the late 1990s and 2010s. Hicks owned the Texas Rangers, bringing his aggressive business approach to baseball in Texas. He also owned the Dallas Stars, and under his ownership, the Stars won the 1999 Stanley Cup. That championship was huge for Dallas, cementing hockey's place in a state that's not exactly known for winter sports. Hicks proved that with the right management and investment, you could build a winner even in non-traditional hockey markets. But Hicks didn't stop with Texas teams. He also acquired Liverpool FC, one of the most storied football clubs in England with a fan base that spans the entire world. This was during that era when American businessmen were buying into European football, bringing their expansion mindset and corporate strategies to clubs with over a century of history. Liverpool fans, to put it mildly, had mixed feelings about Hicks's ownership. There were promises made about new stadiums and investments that didn't always materialize the way supporters hoped. The club went through some rough years financially under his ownership. When Hicks eventually sold Liverpool, there were plenty of fans celebrating his departure. But here's the thing about Hicks. Love him or hate him, he was part of a specific era in sports. An era when team ownership became global, when businessmen saw franchises as investments that could be leveraged and expanded, when the wall between American sports business models and international football started breaking down. For better or worse, Hicks was a major player in that transformation. He died of natural causes at 79, closing a chapter on that particular era of sports ownership. The teams he owned have all moved on to new owners with different visions, but Hicks's impact, especially that Stanley Cup in Dallas, is still part of those franchises' histories. This one is tough because of how suddenly it happened. Eldon Campbell passed away on December 1st at just 57 years old, and the circumstances were absolutely tragic. Campbell died of accidental drowning after suffering a medical emergency while fishing on a jet ski near a beach. Authorities say there's no foul play suspected, but the investigation is ongoing. Just think about that for a second. Campbell was out fishing, doing something he presumably loved, having a relaxing day on the water. Then a medical emergency hits, and in an instant, everything changes. 57 years old, gone in what should have been a peaceful afternoon. Campbell played 15 seasons in the NBA, which is a long career in professional basketball. He was primarily a power forward and center, playing most of his career with the Los Angeles Lakers and Charlotte Hornets. The Lakers drafted him in the first round in 1990, which means the franchise saw something special in him coming out of college. Now, Campbell was never a superstar. He wasn't the guy you built a franchise around or the name that sold jerseys by the thousands. But he was something just as valuable. A solid, reliable professional who showed up, did his job, and made his teams better. 15 seasons in the NBA means you're good enough to keep earning contracts, good enough that coaches want you on their roster, good enough that you're contributing to winning basketball. Campbell's career highlight came in 2004 when he won an NBA championship with the Detroit Pistons. That Pistons team was special. They weren't loaded with superstars. They won by playing tough defense and team basketball, by having guys who understood their roles and executed them perfectly. Campbell was part of that championship run, which means he got to experience what every NBA player dreams of, winning it all. After his time with the Pistons, Campbell finished his career with stints on the New Jersey Nets and Seattle Supersonics before retiring in 2005. By the time he hung it up, he'd played over 900 NBA games. That's nearly 1,000 professional basketball games at the highest level. Think about the punishment your body takes over 15 years of NBA basketball. The practices, the games, the travel, the physical contact. Campbell did all that and came out the other side with a championship ring and the respect of everyone who played with him. Stories like Campbell's remind you how quickly everything can change. 1 minute you're fishing, enjoying retirement after a successful professional career. The next, a medical emergency hits and there's nothing anyone can do. 57 is way too young. Campbell should have had decades ahead of him to enjoy his retirement, watch basketball, maybe mentor young players. Instead, we're remembering him far too soon. The basketball community, especially Lakers and Pistons fans, are mourning Campbell. He wasn't flashy, but he was real. He was proof that you don't have to be a superstar to have a meaningful career and earn your place in the game's history. We also lost some remarkable performers who spent decades on stage and screen. These are people who might not be household names in America, but they were icons in their countries and left behind incredible bodies of work. Jack Shepherd passed away on November 24th at 85 years old. Shepherd was an English actor, playwright, and director best known for playing Detective Superintendent Charles Wycliffe in the ITV crime series Wycliffe, which ran from 1993 to 1998. If you watched British television in the 90s, you knew that show. Wycliffe was one of those reliable crime dramas that British TV does so well, and Shepherd anchored it for 5 years. But Shepherd's career went way beyond one TV show. He earned a BAFTA nomination back in 1976 for his role in Trevor Griffith's Bill Brand, where he played a rebellious Labour MP. That's the British equivalent of an Emmy nomination, and it came for playing a complex political character in what was considered one of the most important British dramas of the 1970s. Shepherd died peacefully in hospital after a short illness. He was surrounded by his wife and Scott and their 5 children. When someone dies at 85 with their family around them after a life spent doing work they loved, that feels like the kind of ending we'd all hope for. Lewis met Freud, spent time with her, and saw something in her that became one of the most beloved characters in children's literature. Freud worked in theater and film for decades. Her final film role was as the Downing Street housekeeper in Love Actually, which if you watched that movie during the holidays, you've seen her work. She died of natural causes at 98, which means she lived through nearly a century of history and entertainment evolution. From the early days of British cinema through the digital age, Freud was there, working and creating. On November 29th, we lost Tony Lamond at 93 years old. If you're not from Australia, you might not know Lamond's name, but in Australian entertainment, she was a pioneer and an icon. Lamond was known for her work on In Melbourne Tonight, a variety show that was huge in Australia, and her acclaimed stage performances in musicals like The Pajama Game, Oliver, Annie, and Chicago. Lamond became a television pioneer in Australia. She regularly appeared on In Melbourne Tonight, and in 1961, she hosted her own edition of the program. For a woman to host her own variety show in 1961 was a big deal anywhere, but especially in Australia where the television industry was still finding its footing. Lamond also acted in Australian series including Number 96, The Unisexers, and The Last Frontier. Later in her career, she appeared in American shows like Murder, She Wrote. She died peacefully after a short illness at 93, closing out a career that spanned decades and helped shape Australian entertainment.